The sun was setting over the dusty town of Redridge, painting the sky in blood-red streaks that seemed to mirror the turmoil in her heart. She stumbled down the main street, her boots dragging through the dry dirt, her chest heaving with exhaustion and fear. Desperate, alone. Every face she passed was a stranger, every shadow a potential threat. She had nowhere to run and no one to turn to. Her life had come to a breaking point, and she knew it. She collapsed against the wooden post of a shuttered saloon, her hands shaking as she tried to catch her breath. Tears blurred her vision, and the harsh wind whipped at her hair, tangling it around her face like a cruel reminder of how lost she truly was. Just when it seemed the world had abandoned her entirely, she heard the slow, deliberate click of boots on the wooden sidewalk. She looked up, heart hammering, and saw him, a cowboy, tall and broad, his silhouette framed by the dying light. There was something about him that seemed both dangerous and comforting, like a storm that promised both destruction and shelter. He stopped a few feet away and tilted his hat back slightly, studying her with eyes that seemed to pierce right through the fear, clinging to her like a second skin. Then he spoke, his voice calm, deliberate, and heavy with a weight she couldn't yet understand. Just 5 words, but they hit her harder than any bullet could. "You're not meant to die." Her body froze. Her mind screamed. How could anyone say that with such certainty, when everything in her life had been telling her otherwise? And yet, something in those 5 words stirred a flicker of hope deep inside her, like a tiny ember refusing to be extinguished by the cold winds of despair. I don't understand," she whispered, her voice trembling. He took a careful step closer, boots creaking against the wood, and offered a hand, not as a threat, but as a lifeline. "Then let me show you," he said simply. The next moments felt surreal. He guided her away from the empty street and toward the outskirts of town, where the shadows of the mountains stretched long across the land, dark and protective. With every step, she felt a strange sense of safety, as if the world outside this path didn't exist, and nothing could touch her. Her heart, battered and bruised, began to slow its frantic pace. They rode in silence for miles, the only sound the rhythmic thud of hooves against dirt and the whispering wind through the canyon. Finally, they reached a hidden valley, a sanctuary tucked away from prying eyes and wandering threats. The sun had fully set by then, leaving the world bathed in silver moonlight, and for the first time in weeks, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: relief. "Who are you?" she asked, glancing at him, curiosity mingling with the still-present fear. "Someone who knows what it's like to be lost," he replied, his eyes scanning the horizon as though reading secrets written in the stars. "And someone who doesn't leave people behind." She stared at him, trying to understand the layers hidden behind that calm, rugged exterior. But before she could ask another question, the sound of hooves echoed from the canyon entrance. Danger. Bandits, drawn by the scent of vulnerability. Her breath caught in her throat. Without hesitation, he pulled her behind a rocky outcrop and drew his revolver with swift precision. Every move was calculated, every action deliberate. And when the first shot rang out, she realized that this strange cowboy wasn't just a savior in words. He was a protector, a force of nature against a world that had tried to break her. Hours later, when the last threat had vanished and the valley was quiet once more, she sat by a small fire, shivering, yet alive. He handed her a canteen, and their fingers brushed, a spark that spoke of trust and something more unspoken but undeniable. "You saved me," she murmured, disbelief and gratitude entwined in her tone. "No," he said softly, his gaze unwavering. "You saved yourself. I just made sure you had the chance." The truth of his words sank in. For the first time, she realized that desperation and solitude were not chains. They were the crucibles that forged strength. And standing beside this mysterious cowboy, she understood that her story was far from over. The horizon was vast, full of unknown adventures, and for the first time, she felt ready to face them all. As dawn approached, painting the valley in hues of gold and amber, she knew one thing: life could be cruel, terrifying, and unforgiving, but it could also be transformed in a single moment, with a single phrase, with the right person showing up at exactly the right time. Those 5 words had changed everything. They had given her not just hope, but the courage to claim her own destiny. And as she mounted her horse beside him, ready to ride into a future she no longer feared, she whispered a silent vow to never forget the power of hope and the stranger cowboy who had reminded her that even in the darkest hour, life was worth fighting for. If you've ever felt lost or abandoned, remember this story, and remember that help can arrive when you least expect it. Don't let despair define you. Like, share, and subscribe for more tales of courage, mystery, and heart-stopping suspense. Because sometimes, all it takes is 5 words to change your life forever.